Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 5, the Universal Order. We are going to begin King Agnidhra. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamam vande Shri Gurum Dina Tarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Wish you all a very happy Balram Jayanti, Balram Purnima. I hope you all had a wonderful festival today. Who succeeded Priyavrat? Asked Parikshit. Verse 1, Shukadev said, after Priyavrat retired to perform penance, his eldest son Agnidhra became the emperor. In obedience to his father's order, Agnidhra protected his citizens as if they were his children, ensuring that they strictly followed their varnashram duties. Verse 2, however, unlike his father, Agnidhra decided elevation to the heavenly region known as Pitrilok. Only those with highly qualified sons can attain this abode. He therefore worshipped Lord Brahma for a celestial wife who would give him a suitable offspring. He went to a valley of Mandar hill where heavenly damsels often strolled, collecting wildflowers and other necessary paraphernalia. He worshipped Brahma while controlling his mind and senses. Listen to what transpired. Verse 3, Brahma dismissed the gods. He had been in discussion with them for some time, ensuring that all universal affairs were in proper order. Beautiful Apsaras entered his courtroom and sang and danced for his pleasure. One particularly charming girl caught his attention. He recognized her as Purvachiti. As he admired her graceful movements, he heard the distant call of mantras petitioning him. With a wave of his hand, his mystical assembly hall showed him King Agnidhra sat before a sacrificial fire, glorifying him. Brahma understood his heart. He called for Purvachiti and came before him, holding her folded palms to her forehead and bowing low. Dear girl, I have a task for you, said Brahma. My lord, just instruct me. He showed her the image of Agnidhra meditating. Please go to him and satisfy his desires. Purvachiti bowed again and left immediately for the earth. Verse 4, descending to Mount Mandar, he strolled in the park where Agnidhra meditated. It was beautified by dense green foliage and golden creepers, and pairs of birds such as peacocks, ducks and swans strutted about, emitting sweet sounds. Verses 5 to 6, Purvachiti glided gracefully along a path through the woods. Purvachiti glided gracefully along a path through the woods like a honeybee going from flower to flower. She smelled the beautiful many-colored blooms. Many celestial gathered unseen to admire her shyness, coy glances and playful movements. They spoke among themselves, just see Purvachiti's beauty. She clears the path for Cupid into the hearts of all men. Hearing their words, she laughed. I have not come to enchant you, but another. When she spoke, nectar seemed to flow from her mouth. Bees hovered about her, maddened by the fragrance of her breath. Becoming disturbed, she hastened towards Agnidhra, her long braided hair swinging, her hips swaying and her breast moving up and down. Agnidhra sat in a clearing, his eyes half open, chanting Om Brahmanaya Namaha. He noticed the intermittent music of ankle bells. Opening his eyes wide, he spotted some flitting in and out among the foliage. He craned his head and glimpsed what seemed like a young boy, partly concealed by flower blossoms. What a fine-looking youth, Agnidhra muttered to himself. He must be the son of a forest sage. Verses 7 to 8. He called out, O best of saintly persons, who are you? The youth glanced up and seeing Agnidhra staring, hid behind a tree. Do not be frightened, Agnidhra called. He rose and tried to reassure the youth. Wait, I will not hurt you. Tell me what you are doing here. Maybe I can help. The youth ran off, turning and smiling from time to time as if beckoning Agnidhra to follow. He hurried to catch up, stepping behind another tree. The youth turned and smiled at him. Agnidhra stopped. Bewildered by his glance, he said, "My dear friend, your eyebrows resemble two bows, and your glancing eyes are like powerful arrows. Your lovely lashes seem to be the arrow's feathers, although your arrow-like glances have no shafts and are delightful. They are very piercing. Why do you have such weapons? Is it for some purpose of your own or for the sake of a friend? Perhaps you carry them to hunt some forest animals." The youth threw his head back and let out a melodic laugh, and that enchanted Agnidhra even further. He said, "You seem peaceful, so I think there is no danger you will shoot anyone, but you must have come here to hunt. Who is your prey? I certainly cannot match you. Indeed, I do not think anyone can match your prowess. I hope you will use your strength to protect me." Looking down shyly, Purvachiti stepped into the open. Bumblebees hovered about her. Agnidhra's mouth dropped open. This is no youthful sage, but the most beautiful maiden he had ever seen. Verse 9. He gaped at her for some moments, not wanting to scare her away. He continued to speak in the same vein as if she were a boy sage. "My dear Lord, the bumblebees around your body are like disciples surrounding your worshipful self. They incessantly offer you prayers by chanting the mantras of the Samaveda and the Upanishads." She laughed, and some flowers decorating her hair tumbled to the ground. Agnidhra's heart pounded with desire, but he had to be careful not to startle her. Inching forward, he said, "Just as great sages resort to the Vedic literatures, these bumblebees enjoy the flowers falling from your hair." She stepped back as if alarmed by his advance. Verses 10 to 11. Agnidhra stood still and called after her, "O Brahmin, I am enchanted by your tinkling ankle bells." She turned to face him. He remained unmoving so as not to alarm her. Somehow he needed to win her confidence. Maybe he could make her laugh. "Again, I think you have partridges within those bells." She glanced down at her ankles and looked at him quizzically with a slight smile. "I cannot see them, but I hear them chirping." Purvachiti threw back her head and laughed. Agnidhra almost gasped. He took in her full beauty, her curved hips draped in thin yellow silk, a jeweled belt encircling her slender waist, and her protruding breast decorated with red kumkum powder. He tried to gather his senses. She had to become his bride, but he had best be careful not to frighten her, maintain a jocular mood. He spoke in a honeyed voice, "Dear boy, where is your back garment? It seems in your haste you have forgotten to dress yourself. Your hips resemble yellow kadam flowers. It appears you have been performing severe austerities, and the embers of your fire sacrifices have encircled your thin waist with a black line." Purvachiti giggled and edged toward him. "You are very funny." Agnidhra pointed at her. "My dear Brahmin, although your waist is thin, with great difficulty you are carefully carrying those two beautiful horns which attract my eyes. What is within them? You seem to have spread fragrant red powder on them, making them look like the rising morning sun. Most fortunate one, please also tell me what is this fragrance which is perfuming my ashram." Purvachiti laughed, making a sound like the tinkling of many small bells. Verse 12. Agnidhra took a deep breath and steadied his mind. "Pray tell me where you live," he asked. "Do all its inhabitants have such delightful raised bodies which are bewitching me?" She teased him sweetly. "How can a humble forest sage bewilder a great hero like you?" Agnidhra smiled. The girl was warming to him. He laughingly replied, "Judging by your sweet speech and kind smiles, I think that like you, all your countrymen must have nectar flowing from their mouths." Purvachiti stood before him, looking down. Agnidhra felt as if his heart might leave his chest. He was obviously attracting this celestial beauty. In a sudden moment of mental clarity, it occurred to him that Brahman had probably sent this heavenly maiden in answer to his prayers. that Brahma had probably sent this heavenly maiden in answer to his prayers. Perhaps he should be more forward. Verses 13 and 14, he reached out and gently touched her chin. She raised her face and her eyes met. Agnidhra's mind went blank for some moments, but he gathered his senses and said, "My dear friend, what do people from your region eat? Is that pleasing scent emanating from your mouth because of chewing beetle?" She smiled, showing her pearl-white teeth. Agnidhra took a deep breath. It was difficult not to pull her into his embrace. He said, "No, it cannot be. Since your teeth are as white as swans, this enchanting fragrance must be because of eating the remnants of food offered to Vishnu. Why? Possibly you are Vishnu's expansion. How else could you be so beautiful? Your face is like a pleasing lake with two restless fish swimming in it. In the shape of your eyes, your jeweled earrings resemble two brilliant sharks of undying luster." He gently brushed back her hair. "Your scattered hair resembles swarms of bumblebees following the beauty of your face." Purvachiti smiled and removed a lotus flower from her hair. She played with it like a ball, throwing it up and catching it in her soft white palm. She danced away seductively, looking into the king's eyes. He gazed spellbound at her jiggling and swaying. Her hair and belt loosened, and the breeze caught her cloth and lifted it, almost revealing her full beauty. Verse 14. Agnidhra followed, his eyes locked on her exquisite form. With great effort he found his voice. "My mind is already restless, but now seeing you play with this lotus flower, my eyes too are agitated. Look how your curling hair is scattered. Are you not going to arrange it, beautiful lady? Do you not see how the cunning wind is trying to remove your lower garment?" Purvachiti looked down coyly as the king went on. Verse 15. "Best of the ascetics, where did you get this beauty which destroys the austerity of others? Tell me where you learned this art. What abstinence did you undergo to get such loveliness? Please join me here in the forest and we shall practice penance together." Verse 16. He reached out to take her hand with a slight smile. She allowed him to pull her toward him. He gazed into her eyes. "Surely the great creator Lord Brahma has sent you here to be my wife. I cannot draw my gaze away from you, my most beautiful woman. I desire to be always with you. Pray marry me and I shall follow you wherever you go." Parikshit looked incredulous. "I am surprised that after performing austerities and meditation for so long, Agnidhra became infatuated and lost his reason. How too could he compare her beauty to Vishnu's?" Verse 17 to 18. Shukadev smiled. Agnidhra's intelligence was like that of the gods, and he was actually Lord Vishnu's devotee. However, he desired a wife and adept at the art of seduction. He flattered Purvachiti with sweet speech, exactly like a lusty materialist. He thus won the celestial girl's favor, and she lived with him for many thousand years, attracted by his intellect, learning, youth, beauty, conduct, opulence and magnanimity. Together they enjoyed both worldly and celestial happiness. Verses 19 to 21. For 9 successive years, Purvachiti gave birth to a son. When they reached adulthood, she returned to Brahma from drinking their mother's breast milk. As infants, Agnidhra's sons developed strong and well-built body. When they attained adulthood, their father gave each of them a tract of land in Jambudweep to rule. He then named the kingdoms after those princes. Verses 22 and 23. Since Purvachiti left before Agnidhra had fully satiated his lust, he always remained absorbed in thought of her. Thus, according to Vedic injunctions, he joined her after his death on the planet known as Pitrilok, where they dwelt in great happiness. As for his 9 sons, they each married one of Mount Meru's 9 daughters. So with this, we conclude chapter 2 of Canto 5, King Agnidhra, and next time we will begin chapter 3, which is Vishnu benedicts King Nabhi. So thank you for joining. I wish you all again a very happy Balram Jayanti. We'll continue reading in our next session. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.